Hey everybody, welcome to another Midas Letter RAW! I'm here with my good friend, Polsky Ogorki. Mileski is here,
scared.
and how are you?
I'm scared.
Why are you scared?
Because you're acting like a madman.
Well, what do you mean acting?
Yeah.
I just got discharged on a day pass to
No,
do this show.
No practicing required.
What?
Right, James?
That's right.
Simple.
No, this is for
I'll
real.
just do
This
it.
is not a rehearsal.
I'll just show him myself.
Yeah, so big
Show yourself.
show yourself. Big movements in the markets today. Today we're going to talk about the what are we going to talk about, Ed? We're going to talk about
Commodities.
Voxtur Analytics. Oh, quick disclosure first to kick it off, unless we get ourselves in cockadoodle with the regulators.
Yeah.
We are sponsored by Voxtur Analytics, VXTR on the TSXV and VXTRF in the United States of America. So that means we have shares and we have options, but they don't pay us any cash. No. That's because we're happy to hold the stock because we obviously believe it's going to go in the right direction. Anyways, did you see that financial statement?
Making money.
Tripled the revenue.
Yeah.
Year-over-year run rate now of 86 million. That's up 100 and some odd percent since over the same period
When
last year.
you see management start to deliver,
Execute.
you have to pay attention. In other words, okay, show me
your
more,
Yeah.
and that builds long-term
Yep.
relations with shareholders.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the financial performance was that the EBITDA was actually up huge too,
Yeah,
the adjusted
nice.
EBITDA. So, the only thing that I would say, and this might get me into cock-a-doodle with
Be
the
careful.
company,
Be careful.
is that, I hate to see it when they start off a conference call and say that, please note that we are relying on non-GAAP metrics and IFRS, which is like, it's interesting to me that non-GAAP is basically the same as IFRS, which is like saying IFRS is really not to be relied on even when it's non-IFRS, but non-GAAP, which is obviously a higher standard, the U.S. accounting standard. Anyway, so adjusted EBITDA was up substantially, and the company continues to execute on its business model and the vision of founder Gary Yeoman and co-founder, I guess now would be the classification of Jim Albertelli. Jim Albertelli is going to be our guest on the show this afternoon. He's going to break down the financials for us, so stick around for that. But our first guest
Is?
Raj Groveron. He's the CEO of HITI, a Canadian real cannabis story, retail story that is just listed on NASDAQ. So big deal there. That's coming up in a little while.
Yeah.
But right now we're going to jump to commodities because commodities are essentially the harbingers of inflation, and let's just say that the harbingers are all a flutter. Let's not start with the U.S. 10-year. Here's the front month copper. Nice big drop yesterday and today.
3%.
3%, 446. The election in Peru is coming up this weekend. Peru is number 2 copper producer in the world. If the election goes to the left, which all polls indicate that the left is going to prevail in this,
Right.
then that's going to mean a serious question mark around the Peru copper supply.
Right.
So this is pivotal.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what can happen here, isn't it? Like I was talking to Steve Dunn,
the copper doctor,
Dr. Copper,
former Dr. Copper.
former Dr. Copper, and he said, this could shape the whole. This election is so crucial in terms of shaping the pricing structure of copper in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to find out this weekend, folks.
So it seems odd, though, that there would be such a drop in the copper front month price when there's this pivotal election happening.
Maybe a little window dressing?
Maybe, or maybe somebody's just lightening up on their commitment to copper in case it does go the way we want it to, which means security of supply out of Peru. Who knows?
You got to think. No matter what happens,
You got to think all the
copper if you're gonna make anything, if you're gonna invent anything, if you're gonna do anything in this world, you need copper.
You need copper.
Copper. We're a
All right,
couple of
let's take a look at
copper
lumber.
turkeys.
Now, the lumber price is also taking a bit of a dip here, down to $13.28, though not before touching a low yesterday of just under $1,200 per thousand board feet. How is that significant? Well,
Was that yesterday?
that was, well, no, this was May 19th when it dropped down to
So we're looking at maybe a double bottom here, a short-term double bottom.
Double bottom.
Double bottom.
Double bottom. Yeah, that just, when
Make
you
it a
think of
double.
a bottom
Make it
and
a
the letter
club-
B
club
turning
size.
downward, it's a double bottom, but it's only one bottom. But interesting, the letter B looks
Single
like a bottom.
Single bottom.
Well, look, it's a single bottom. Everybody's got one.
Okay.
And they're all full. Anyways, so lumber.
I like
that.
that.
So why are lumber prices softening up in the commodities? What's the significance of that? Well, to me, that tells you that there's an expectation of a return to normal demand sort of numbers in the months ahead, because if it were otherwise, then people would still be loading up on futures and the price would still be rising. But what this tells me is that the supply-demand bottleneck is going to ease, demand's going to ease, and especially when the moratorium comes off the 4 million houses in foreclosure in the United States at the end of June, which means that there's going to be a whole bunch of real estate on the market all at once, which means prices are going to be depressed by this sudden glut of inventory, which means that people are going to lose their houses. It could be a bit of a snowball there.
Which means
that prices are
you
going to
can
rise.
do a whole show on which means.
Which means.
Because everything means something else.
Exactly.
I know.
I know.
I want to say something else. We saw such an amazing run in lumber. There had to be a serious period of retrenchment, digestion. Or else maybe you'll get a little indigestion.
And you don't want any little fluff bunnies in your
what's
pants.
that noise?
What's that smell?
No, it's what's that crazy word? It's a crazy Borborygmus. Borborygmus.
I've not heard that one before.
Borborygmus?
Never.
Come on.
I've never heard of it. Should we look it
Okay.
up? You're going to tell me the definition.
It's when somebody's stomach is gurgling or making noise.
That's
you walk in
Borborygmus?
the room and you go, Borborygmus, I hear.
I think I'm going to change my name to
Borborygmus. It's one of the hardest. It's listed as one of the hardest words to pronounce and spell. I don't know why. I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Borborygmus.
Spell it.
Borborygmus.
And you can't see why that might be a tough one to spell in a spelling bee?
Piece of
That's
cake.
not how
piece
I
of
would have
cake.
spelt it. I would have spelt it differently. How would you have spelt it? I would have spelt it differently.
I don't care.
Never mind you.
Borborygmus. Okay.
Right. Let's look at
enough of that shit.
NASDAQ
Enough of that
here.
shit.
NASDAQ 100. The interesting reason we're looking at this chart today is because, as Ed said earlier, since February,
Really, not really done anything. It's
sideways.
So is this what you might call distribution?
Distribution.
Distribution. Doctor
Distribution.
Dr. Frankenstein here.
Dr. Demento.
Here, plug yourself in for get some
Yeah,
more
no,
juice.
look, since February it's traded sideways. What does that tell you? Well, the liquidity flowing into the tech sector is kind of leveled off.
You want to see something shocking? Hit the all button on that chart. Hit the all button.
All?
Yeah, that's it. There you go. Oh! Now, is that what they call asymptotic? Is that the right word?
Asymptotic. Look at you with the words today. Jesus.
Bring it out a little math into the equation.
Holy cow.
Bring in some math into the equation.
You're unstoppable today, man.
Okay. Insufferable, did you say?
Unstoppable. Never insufferable, my good friend.
Okay.
So yeah, NASDAQ.
But that scares the shit out of you. Like,
Doesn't scare me.
well,
I don't have any
this
NASDAQ
just go up
stocks,
forever?
but-
You know,
obviously
every
nothing goes
time.
up forever.
I know, but it looks like this is a scary. Look, I don't know.
Push it out a bit. That's a bit more climbable staircase.
So what could bring down the markets? I'll tell you. When you read about demographics in the world, there's quite a few countries that aren't replacing themselves at this time, which suggests that in 20 years there could be some serious population issues to drive what everybody wants to continue.
Here's a question for you.
Okay.
If I'm Chinese and I'm born in China, then obviously, and I decide
with
not
you
to
so
have
far.
kids,
Okay.
I'm one of the 27 million Chinese who are not having kids, the 27 million fewer couples who are not having children. But if I'm Chinese, but I moved to Canada 100 years ago, or my family moved here 100 years ago,
Yeah.
are you counted as a Chinese person or are you counted as a Canadian?
If you were here 100 years ago,
Yeah.
and you're still here,
Yeah.
you're old.
No, I mean your family. But so are you still Chinese?
Well, no, you're like I'm Canadian. But my parents were born in Poland.
Edward.
Okay,
Full-scale Gorky.
Full-scale, hence the
Hence the handle.
pickle moniker.
Right. the
Okay.
pickle.
Okay. So the pickler,
The pikey pickler. Where were we going
Polish
with this?
pickler. No.
Fluffer.
Forget it.
Fluffer.
Okay.
Damn near
No. I think I'm Canadian. My dad's Polish. Was born in Poland.
Congratulations.
I think that's how it works.
All right. Anyways, changing the subject now, I wanted to bring up our good friend Wolf Richter in the United States. We got to get Wolf
On
back
the ball.
on the show.
This guy's on the ball.
He's on the ball. He pointed out on June the 2nd, it begins, he says, the Fed will outright sell its corporate bonds and ETFs. Why is this significant? I had forgotten all about this, but I think it was Wolf who brought it to our attention last time too, is that the Fed rolls out all these special purpose vehicles and says, well, this special purpose vehicle, we're going to buy junk bond ETFs. We're going to buy, all kinds of crap.
And they never did.
Well, they bought a little.
Yeah, and then that
But
scared
that
everybody.
buoyed the market because everybody thought the Fed
Well,
put
I'm not
us in.
selling to you guys.
Exactly. The Fed's going to be buying. I'm just
Okay.
going to wait for the Fed to buy.
We're going to leave the market, but we're not going to tell you before we leave the market.
And this is them actually saying, actually, screw that. We're out.
You know what?
Here.
We bid you a fair price. We bid you a fair price.
Yeah.
Now
So now, is there
wow.
a chart we can pull up
they
that
got
looks at,
they got a break there.
is there an index of junk bond ETFs?
Yes, there is. There's got to be, but I don't know where to go for them. I don't follow that indicator that
I'll tell
way.
you where to go. Junk bond ETFs on Google. Junk bond ETF index. Ooh, let's see what happens there. We'll see just how right our friend longevity funds. How is a junk bond in? Oh, it's an ad. There you go. The relevance of Google in their extortionist business model hits again. 68 high yield bond ETFs. I guess high yield is equivalent to junk. Why else do they pay so much interest?
Well, that's right. Your yield is a lot.
Okay, so it didn't
determined
really
by
do
your-
anything except make bonds, those junk bond ETFs, increase on average by less than 1%, obviously, but still, it looks like it's all good. It's all favorable. Or are these, the 1 day range up 0.13, up 0.11.
I think usually if there's a threat of an interest rate rise, these are the first things to move because these companies are usually the worst companies.
Yeah, they're paying like 12 and 13%.
Why do they call them junk?
Well, because the chance of you collecting is like about a piece.
But they only have 13 billion. They should be able to piece that off.
Well, that's just it. It's not significant to the Fed balance sheet, which is now sitting at $7 trillion.
They said 8.
$8 trillion.
It was a heading.
Wow, did you go
there
to
was
the
a heading
bathroom or something?
And
now it's gone up another trillion?
on Wolf's website when you pulled it up.
Well,
it
that's
said-
true.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
It's one
true.
of those says 8.
Yeah, 8. Oh, okay. So, we could
There you
spend
go.
all day talking about what Wolf's writing
7
about.
or 8.
We should get him on the show. That's all there is to it. So this is, there's so much stuff we could talk about here. Like Bill Gross is, former bond king.
But yeah.
Well, he's kind of losing his marbles in his dotage and
Is
coming
he?
out with he's coming out. He had the big fight with his neighbor about a statue he put up, and him and his wife blared Gilligan Island at top volume, the theme from Gilligan Island, at his neighbor just to piss him off, just to show him who was boss.
It just goes to show you, nobody shits vanilla ice cream.
Where did that come from?
Well,
That's
if
a
you
good
think
one.
about it, everybody's got this sort of notion that they're, when they were created, there was the universe went, it was like because you're special, right?
Right,
We're all
right,
so special.
right,
I'm
right.
special. Special ed.
Special ed.
But you know what? The truth really is, no one's getting out of this alive. Like at the end of the day, right?
That's pretty
as you
true.
get older, and if you got some money behind you, you tend to think, I don't give a shit anymore, right?
Exactly. Exactly. All right, here's Raj Grover to tell us about what's happening with the NASDAQ listing with High Tide. Hey there, Midas Letter subscribers. My guest now is Raj Grover, founder and CEO of High Tide Inc., recently trading on NASDAQ under the symbol HITI. Raj, how are you doing today?
Hello, James. I'm good. How are you? Good to see you.
Thank you. It's great to see you too. I'm really blown away by what you've done with the company since we last chatted. I turn around and you guys are trading NASDAQ. You're trading over $10 a share on the TSX. What has happened in the last year to suddenly make you guys the runaway success of the Canadian cannabis industry?
High Tide has been transformed upside down. I met you in February of 2019. And, from over the last 2 years, we've been executing continuously. But over the last 8 months, I would say the company has been transformed upside down. I mean, from when I saw you in 2019, we were at 4 cannabis stores and 4 accessory stores because we had that moratorium in Alberta. And
Right.
Today, this morning alone, we opened our 88th cannabis retail store in Canada. We've acquired 4 companies since, which I'd love to talk to you about. And we became the first cannabis retailer, publicly traded cannabis retailer, to not just apply to list on the NASDAQ, but to be approved and starting to trade on the NASDAQ. So, extremely proud of our accomplishments over the last couple of years. But I always say we have the best team in the business of cannabis, and it's now clearly showing in our execution.
You bet. So you've increased revenues in the past 6 months from 70 million to 108 million. What is driving that increase primarily? Is it the number of stores or is it higher revenue per user at your store base?
Well, it's definitely got a lot to do with the sheer number of store increase, right? Just from March 2021 to this morning, we've opened 16 stores. In March alone, we opened 8 stores. I think that is a record for any cannabis operator in North America. I could be wrong, but I'd like to think so. I know it is in Canada. So the sheer number of stores is definitely helping. And a lot of our stores have also matured, James. So, the last 2 years, the ramp up period has gone up from 3 to 6 to 9 months, but we now have a lot of mature stores that we've been opening since 2018. So that is definitely helping. But at the same time, the acquisition of grasscity.com that we made in December of 2018, when we purchased it, that business was doing 5.5 million Canadian dollars annually. Today, it's doing north of $15 million. So we've tripled that business. Our specialty or our expertise is being operationally focused. And I think that is really starting to pay dividends now.
Yeah, for sure. When you say operationally focused, though, correct me if I'm wrong, you focus on not operating any growing facilities or any propagation facilities. You're strictly a retailer. Is that correct?
Look, we're so strictly a retailer that we had to put up a slide in our investor presentation that retailers are not LPs. Unfortunately, we've all been judged in that same bucket, as you know. But slowly, all the retailers in Canada are doing much better. It's a little unfortunate for the licensed producers simply because of how the regs have turned out. But our business is completely the opposite of a growing business. Our CapEx, our spend on a retail store is minuscule when compared to putting, $100 to $200 million to set up a growing facility and more. In many cases, as we've seen, we are direct to consumer, consumer facing. We are that end distribution hub that even the growers need. So from that perspective, I think we're pretty shielded. Like the wholesale price of flower has continued to come down, but that has not significantly affected the retailers. We're still able to apply our gross margin, although which is getting competitive, mind you, in Canada. We're still much more shielded than the growers because one bad crop or extensive capex, we don't have to deal with any of that.
Sure. Yeah, I would say that from where I sit, your focus on retailing and not having anything to do with the growing extraction concentration of the crop is probably like the secret sauce, if I was to guess from where I'm watching. So I congratulate you 100% on that. I was not a believer when I first met you. I was like, well, how are you going to make money in the retail? I would think growing it's where it's at. Well, as we know, most of the top 5 Canadian cannabis companies in Canada have a projected EBITDA of 0 for this year. So, I mean, that's just brilliant. And now you're expanding into the United States. Is that the plan?
That is the plan. You talked about EBITDA a little bit. We became the first Canadian publicly traded retailer to declare positive adjusted EBITDA in Q2 of 2020. We backed that up with another quarter of positive EBITDA in our last quarter, which was Q1 of 2021. We reported 4.6 million of adjusted EBITDA. So Q2 of 2020 was around $1 million or so, and now we're at $4.6 million. So you can see that trajectory of adjusted EBITDA. And going back to the American question, U.S. expansion is the most exciting element for High Tide. Canada is a small market. It was home turf. We did very, very good. We became the market leaders here. But I've always wanted to do business in the U.S., and I can proudly tell you that, we're now doing about 40% of our revenue run rate. We've increased our U.S. run rate by 40%, and we're now doing about $40 million annually from U.S. alone, which is all accessories and hemp-derived CBD, nothing to do with touching the plant, which we're ready to execute on when the time comes. But our U.S. business continues to grow very steadily.
Sure. So what percentage of your revenue is driven by non-cannabis products? Like, I'm talking not the weed, not the oils, not the extracts. You sell a great percentage of it, if I'm not mistaken, is actually the accessories. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So as per our last reported quarter, which would be Q1 of 2021, 68% of all of our sales were cannabis sales in Canada from our retail stores. 32% of all of our sales there is basically accessories, which is e-commerce and our distribution of accessories. Now, that's not including Smoke Cartel's full quarter. We acquired another beautiful company, Smoke Cartel, which is an online e-commerce platform with proprietary dropshipping technology. And we followed that up with the acquisition of fabcbd.com. And both those numbers are not part of our forward-looking quarters.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Raj, that's fantastic. So what is the biggest sort of market that you're looking at in the U.S. to dominate? Are you looking at the U.S. as a national market? Because you're not touching the plant, you're not limited to the interstate limitations of plant producers. So is that kind of your approach to the U.S.? Is that it's one big national market for you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Like, we do business in all 50 states today through our accessories. And now with the acquisition of Fab CBD, again, all 50 states in the US. So it is a national play for us. We're very proud of the fact that we have e-commerce platforms where we have customers that are shopping for these consumption accessories. This is the same customer that spends top dollar on cannabis because they consume more cannabis in general. So having this customer base already, between Grass City and Smoke Cartel, we saw 33 million site visits in 2020 alone. When the time comes, we're perfectly positioned to turn on the tap on online cannabis sales. 4 provinces in Canada allow that, which practically half of the country in Canada allows it. If 25% of the United States allow online cannabis sales, well, we're the best positioned company to take advantage of that. I don't even think a MSO can take, can stand up to what we have in terms of our online capabilities.
Sure. So what's the most popular cannabis product in Canada that you're aware of right now? Like, I'm always curious to know from professionals in the industry like yourself, what is the most in-demand product in Canada?
Look, flower remains to be the top of the category. Between dry flower and pre-rolls, the category is still at 60%. So there's no question that Canadians are still going for dry flower the most. Categories that have been picking up is the vape category. It started around 11%. It's now at like 17%. We expect it to go over 20%, so it's quickly rising. But I think for the near future, flower will continue to dominate as a top category in Canada.
And among the producers, is there one that stands out that has risen above the rest in terms of customers seeking them out?
Look, I don't want to call a single producer in particular because, the reality is there's many good licensed producers in Canada. They've been doing a great job with producing some really high quality cannabis now that we can now say it does compete with the illicit market, both on quality and price. And we see sort of the cycles, Afria would come up with some very good SKUs, and then Canopy would follow up with that, and then Aurora would do the same. So it sort of goes back and forth, and there's a ton of other producers that are doing craft cannabis that I'm very pleased to see the quality. So can't really point out to one producer because that market share goes up and down, as you would know. But overall, in general, I've been very impressed with the quality of cannabis that is coming out of the license stream.
Mm-hmm. That's great, Raj. All right, we're going to leave it there, Raj. That's a great update. Congratulations on all your success. We're going to follow the story more often now that we're back up and running in pandemic land here. And I'll look forward to talking to you again very soon. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet. Bye for now. About to conquer America now. So great on them. Congratulations to Raj and his team. That's just brilliant.
Yeah.
What's
the price? Just is it 4 and change there? Is that right?
865.
Oh, I mean,
What?
I was only looking with one eye.
Dude,
And
I was gonna say.
multiplied by 2.
Divided in half,
Yeah,
you mean.
I was only looking at one eye.
You know, you might want to invest in a set of peepers.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeepers.
Jeepers, peepers. So let's talk about copper and what's
Yeah,
going on in Peru this weekend is the election, the runoff election, which has come down to Keiko Fujimori, who is the daughter of Alberto Fujimori, who is currently serving life in prison for genocidal crimes against humanity because he snuffed out the leftist Maoist rebels were conducted by the Tupac Amaru group and the Sendero Luminoso.
How do you know all this shit?
Because I lived in Peru for 2 years. My partner's Peruvian, and it's all he talks about. So how the hell, what else am I going to, how could I not know? I know more about Peruvian politics than I do Canadian ones at this point. Anyways, because there's an election underway, and it's literally, it's like edge of your seat gripping because the polls are like this. If Keiko Fujimori wins, the country goes flying all the way to the right. Like she makes Donald Trump look like a social justice warrior. And if the other guy wins,
you're saying this is a very polarized.
this is as polarized as if the guy on the left wins.
Far right,
he's
far
talking
left.
nationalization of all foreign companies.
Well, I
So
know
it's
there's
like
a- there's
that's
a-
like this. This is the range between in this election.
And
There's
these are the
nothing in
two?
between. That's it.
So the country should split the country right now, and you take one, and we'll take the other.
Well,
But
but
it
the
doesn't
problem
make-
is
I
that
know,
everybody's
you
not
can't-
in the north and the
can't do
south.
that. Can't do that.
Most of the voters, most of the supporters
Wow, this isn't good.
for Castillo is the gentleman's name who's on the left. His support base is all in the Andean and the rural
Right.
outreaches of Peru, whereas all Keiko Fujimori's support comes from within the cities.
Right. You know what?
But this is what is going to determine the price action in copper futures in the near.
I think that depending who you talk to, Peru is either second or third biggest producer in the world.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
And
saying.
what if they decide? In Chile? What about things in Chile?
Chile's gone sideways completely.
Yeah.
The independent
What
got
if
in.
Chile and Peru team together and say, "Okay, boys, a little cartel action here. Let's just."
Yeah, that
put the
could happen.
co-
But this is why I think, looking at the futures price in copper, it seems to me that the bet in the futures price of copper is telling us that they expect Fujimori to prevail.
Okay, let me ask you this:
right.
you've lived in Peru.
Yeah.
What would you say? What would you say is the chance of there being some form of anarchy or protest or civil war? Or,
Well, it was only in
if
the
it's
late
that
90s, early
polarized,
2000s.
If it's that,
Well, no, this is my point. This is my response. In the late 90s, early 2000s, in the late 90s was the period during which the Maoist groups conducted their terrorist war against the cities.
Yes.
And there were bombs planted in cities and towers blown up in cities. It was a terrorist time. They would knock out power installations with
Peru.
bombs. In Peru,
Lima?
Alberto Fujimori comes to power on his promise to neutralize this
stamp it
threat.
out.
He goes into the mountains and starts castrating people. He starts going in and castrating anybody who he deems to be a supporter.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That'll slow you down.
Well, that's the polarization. It's like you either got your nuts chopped off by
So
her
how do you
family,
go
or you're on the other side.
How do you go to the bathroom? You got
You got your nuts chopped off? You got a colostomy bag. Isn't that, how's your colostomy bag? All right, so anyways, that's what's going to determine the price action
So
of copper.
there's some wild stuff going on in the world.
Insane.
Anyway,
Chile's,
when you look and you couple that with the craziness that went on in Kyrgyzstan with Centaur Mining, there's
that was
you know what
what?
they're
That was
saying
5
now?
years ago.
Buy our interest out. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, well,
They're-
or how about Chevron selling their interest in the oil sands? Chevron has said today that they are open to selling their entire commitment to the Canadian oil sands. What does that tell you about the oil sands viability economically long term? Even Chevron is like, you know what?
Yeah.
We'll pass. We're out.
You know,
It's for sale.
you can't go sailing unless there's a wind. And for students of the market, it's
about if there's a
important to be
windbag?
in the areas where there's some wind, so you can go sailing. If there's no wind,
You're not sailing.
what are you going to?
You're drifting.
You're just sitting there. Hey, I'll come back
You got to jump
tomorrow.
in and out of the boat.
I'll come back tomorrow and see
Swing.
ya.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere.
Oh, there's that. Yeah. Well, so
I don't know.
copper's in play in a big way.
I think it is, but this 445 looks.
Well, here's why I think this is.
I don't mean
this is
exact-
merely a consolidation, a digestion of a big price move, as you like to say. But
yeah.
here's the thing:
Yeah.
the world is coming back from a pandemic, and it is overcapitalized. It is the liquidity inventory pounding into markets right now as a result
Pounding?
of central bank pounding out the money.
Pounding.
It's just like this is unprecedented. The convergence between stimulated economy and a resumption of normal demand patterns and economic growth.
Yeah.
I think that this is the first stop on the way to $8, as you have said. You caused me to do the research, and I agree.
Okay, so Crown Mining. We like Crown Mining. I have a big interest.
One question from the audience that we're going to address today is, what was the last stock you traded? And I was like, the last stock I traded, I bought 100,000 shares of Crown.
Oh, yeah. But the point I'm getting, they did announce they've commenced drilling, and they're going to announce they've announced the program. Now this hasn't been drilled in 70 years. It should be interesting to see what they find. Be interesting to see how it correlates with what they said was already there.
Given the fact that it's a past producer, given the fact that they know exactly where the high grade is, what I'm more interested to see is what effect is a stellar drill result, which is almost a slam dunk guarantee with these guys, because obviously they're going to drill down the throat of some high grade vein because they're trying to catch the attention of the market so they can finance the company higher. What I want to see is what is going to be the reaction of a slam dunk drill hole in a copper project that's held by a junior that's been sort of struggling for
you know what? Let's stay tuned and we're going to find out.
We're going to find
and
out.
we're going to talk about it on future episodes.
When are the results coming out?
Well, they're still drilling, so maybe tomorrow.
Maybe they already drilled and the results are already in.
Yeah, maybe they're saying like
maybe we're buying their stock.
We're going to start producing marijuana.
Could
no,
be.
no. I'm just kidding.
So here's a
Lundin Mining.
Yeah, so this is a Scotiabank equity research update on Lundin Mining. And Lundin is obviously big in Chile. And this is these two analysts, Orest Wokada and Daniel Sempieri, commenting on what they think the outlook for Lundin Mining Corporation is as a copper operator in Chile. So our take, and I'm going to quote them verbatim here, in our view, only three things appear fairly certain with respect to the future tax and royalty regime for copper miners in Chile. 1, higher taxes appear inevitable. The question is how much. 2, with an election this fall and a mandate to rewrite the Constitution in mid-2022, we are likely to receive clarity within the next 12 months. What does that mean? 3, miners are likely to delay starting new construction of projects. Okay, now this is the main takeaway for me is the investment in new mining and copper in Chile is about to cease. The union that controls the biggest copper mine in the world has voted to go on strike.
Would you say maybe a new chapter is beginning in the
combine
Chilean,
that with
in the
a
Chilean
leftist government emerges on Sunday in Peru? The whole west coast of Latin America has just gone hard left.
Copper could be up $1 a pound next week.
Well, I think you could see the futures market just absolutely exploding.
You know, it may be going down now, but maybe it's manipulated.
It is
Let's
a
just
futures
say
market.
somebody who wants the price to be down might sell a lot to drive it down.
See, I would think that if I had been long and strong copper futures in that run-up, I would be taking my profit off the table and getting ready to redeploy that copper into this market pending a little more certainty around the Peruvian election. This is guaranteed. The Chilean government has already gone far left with the election of this independent group. In Peru, it's still a 50-50 shot. If it goes to the communists in Peru, and it's like, it's not that they're socialists, they're communists. Hardcore, the guy wears red. He's talking about nationalizing all of the foreign... Yeah, he wears a red kerchief around his hat with a little hat. He actually dresses...
I've never really seen the guy.
Really? Let's pull up
Let's take a look.
Well, what he's doing is he's wearing the...
Is he like a Castro kind of guy?
I'd
that
say
charismatic?
he's more... no, he's not. I personally, when I listen to him, I find his logic is like grade 11, if at best. Like he draws some pretty weak conclusions. If then this, it's like he's laughable. When he gets on national media in Peru, the intelligentsia is laughing their heads off at this guy. But the problem is, in Peru, there's such a huge segment of the population that really doesn't have access to education that this guy comes along and says, vote for me, I'll make your life better, by stealing all of the assets of those rich bastards in the city. And they buy that. Hook, line, and sinker. Look at the 72 million morons in the United States who voted for that guy with the orange skin. I mean, come on, it's an international pandemic of stupidity we're laboring under.
Well, you know, what someone just said was that it's shameful. It's not shameful that Trudeau's our prime minister. It's shameful that the people voted for him.
Trudeau?
Yeah.
The guy giving away the free money to anybody who can fog a mirror?
Yeah.
No, he's got my vote again and again and again and again and again and again and again, as long as he's giving away the free do-re-mi. I mean, come on.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Good way to look at it. Never thought of it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I would complain. I like getting money.
In criticism, he's buying votes.
Let's see.
In appreciation, he's buying my vote. He's paying for my vote. So here's his little, like, this is his shtick. He's wearing like this.
That's the guy?
This Peru emblem here that he's wearing was actually produced by the Peruvian tourist industry to attract tourists to Peru. This guy's saying he's going to nationalize everything, including the hotels owned by foreign corporations. He's basically shitting on the logo that he's wearing and doesn't understand the correlation. It's over his head. And this is the scary thing. If Peru has that high population, that high ratio of stupid people, just like the United States apparently does and Canada probably does, then like we're doomed. Copper prices are going to the moon.
Well,
we're not doomed. We're going to make out like bandits, as usual. But this is Keiko Fujimori. Her father castrated half of the Andean. So they're not voting for her just out of spite. They're just saying, like, you're not your father, but we're not voting for you because you're your father's daughter. We don't care about this guy's rhetoric. Half the country would rather vote for this guy on reasons to do nothing with politics, and half the country will never vote for her because of everything to do with politics. So it is the most interesting election in Latin America in 50 years, in my opinion.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. And when will they know? When will we know? Will we know by
Monday? Unless it's super close, we'll know Monday.
If it's super close, then they gotta.
Yeah, but
who's running the ship right now?
Who's running the ship right now?
Is.
Nobody. No, actually, you know what's interesting? The last 5 presidents in a row of Peru are all in jail, or they died on their way to jail.
And they want to be the next one.
Well, that's right. You got to be crazy to want to run for a president.
They can't wait to get in there and have them been then taken to jail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they all think that they're different. They all think that they're immune. Special treatment. Very special.
But I'm different.
You are different, Edward.
Have you noticed?
You are unique.
Have you noticed?
You're all just little twinkling stars.
I've never met
in the
anyone
universe.
like you before.
I've never met anybody like you before.
Have met anyone like you before.
I've never met anybody like you
you're
before.
just saying that.
Oh, come on, stop it.
Really?
Okay, so that's what's going to determine the price action in
okay.
Peru. And actually, this is going to determine the political direction of all of Latin America starting next week. So this is an election to watch if you have any interest in the international geopolitical balance of power. This is intriguing.
Yeah.
This is intriguing
well,
shit right here.
You know, when the spread between the haves and the have-nots becomes so great, then, you know, certain. What am I trying to say?
I'm wondering that myself.
Well,
when the disparity between quality of life exceeds a tolerable amount by the people who are experiencing the low end of that, violence ensues. It's time for gonna have a revolution. Well, you know.
Well, we certainly are, folks.
That's what is. Latin America is on the brink of a revolution.
Well, and couple that. With
Actually, I would call it a devolution, honestly.
Couple that with the specter of higher interest rates, and then you got a potion for a toxic cocktail.
Oh, you don't say. Oh my gosh.
Toxic cocktail.
I was reading that the Turkish government had said that, you know what, we're not going to, we're going to hold interest rates where they are instead of raising them. You know what interest rates are in Turkey? 19%.
Well, Turkey's quite the interesting place, isn't it?
It's an interesting bird.
Erdogan is
bit of a criminal.
And what do they do? The Turkey sort of connects the Middle East with the Europe. Is that?
Well, Turkey is essentially the modern remnant of the Ottoman Empire. Is
Yeah,
that
but
accurate to
it's
say?
in between, right? It's right.
Well,
You
it's
can't go
the gateway to Islam.
Yeah.
For
There you
sure.
go. There you go.
For sure, and it's always been
Oh,
regarded
people
as a
say
very
it's
important buffer.
Fascinating place. You've been there?
I've never been to Turkey. No.
No.
You know that you can go to a hammam in Turkey. Hammam
Yeah,
means
chickens
spa.
seems to be more my
Chicken. Have you been to chicken?
and back.
Yeah. Did you cross the road? You didn't
Anyway,
get flattened by
yeah.
a truck.
Yeah,
No, but Turkey, you can
Yeah.
go to a hammam and you can get scrubbed down by hairy old ladies
Scrubbed
and
down.
depelliculated.
Yeah.
You know what that means?
Get rid of the cells.
No.
De-
The hairs. They depelliculate you.
deflocculate? No.
Depelliculate.
Okay.
Pellicule is another word for a hair.
Pellicule.
Pellicule.
Oh.
Yeah. So they will depellicule you. They scrub you with
What's
heavy
the-
brushes, and you just stand there like this in the hot steam, and that's
Are
a
you
hammam.
are you wearing anything?
No, you're not, because they're scrubbing everything. The junk, the trunk, everything. The bunk, the funk. It's all going in a little scrubby motion.
Junk, the trunk,
Yeah.
and the funk.
And I'm pretty sure it doesn't come with any special ending.
No.
Because you're rubbed raw
Oh,
from the
well,
experience. You're
yeah.
like, okay,
Wow. So
everything is saggy.
This
and
all
limped
started
down.
with Turkey and
Yeah.
Erdogan. Erdogan's a bit of an egomaniac, I think.
Erdogan? 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 Sounds like a bit of a horse, like
Irish.
Erdogan.
Erdogan.
Yeah, remember when he came to visit the president of the United States and his bodyguards hopped out and started shit-kicking all of the guys who were protesting against Turkey on the side of the road? His bodyguards hopped out of the motorcade and started beating on U.S. citizens.
What?
Yeah!
I didn't remember
big
that.
dust up. You don't remember that? All right, let's change direction.
Let's
completely.
go change our rate of speed.
Enough
here.
about Latin America. Let's go back to civilization.
Okay.
In Canada, we have another revolution underway, and that is the disruption and reorganization of the entire real estate business by a company called Voxtur Analytics. Full disclosure, I own shares. I am incentivized with options, so obviously not to be trusted.
Yeah.
But why did I buy shares before I was incentivized even? Why do I continue to hold? Why do I continue to seek to build my position in this company? Because these guys are taking the whole process of buying real estate from multiple months across multiple agencies and thousands of dollars to multiple minutes and hundreds of dollars.
Can they move you in that sort of time frame too?
Oh, yeah. All on one platform, all at the touch of a keyboard. Anyways, Jim Albertelli is the president. His company was one of the main assets that was part of this roll-up strategy that is still underway. And I'll let him do the talking from here on in because they just delivered a smashing quarter.
Sounds fascinating.
Hey there, Midas Letter subscribers. My guest today is Jim Albertelli, president of Voxtur Analytics Corp. Jim, welcome.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Jim, you guys put out a, by all accounts, a real stellar quarter, tripled revenue, tripled EBITDA practically, and looks like you're on track to execute on your business plan just as you guys have always claimed you were going to. So give me an overview of the quarter and what are the bright spots in the future?
Yeah, so a couple things happened. Right on February 3rd, we closed the Voxtur proper transaction. So we brought really the title technology as well as several mortgage technologies all into and under one roof. So that's why you saw us broke it out, that we said had the companies been put together at the beginning of the quarter, it would have looked like approximately 2.7 million. We would have been even further ahead. But obviously that, it was just because it was a mid-quarter acquisition to finally get it completed. So that's why you really saw, the top line expanding, the top line revenue going up because of the nature of the business combination, and also seeing some of the advantages of the counter-cyclical technologies that are comprised within the group.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, and so do you guys break out the revenue per sort of business unit at this point?
Yeah, when it's interesting. It's so funny when we're having these exact conversations because the nature of the metamorphosis is going from the data company and the tech-enabled services and how we deliver those ultimately to our clients to software as a service. So I imagine that what you'll see is an evolution in the financials as the business evolves. and have streams. You see essentially the technology line, and then you see a couple of different business units, and we're aligning that today, how we're actually managing the business and what it looks going forward as it's software as a service. So we're having those conversations right now. We break it out by each business unit, but we're also breaking it out along the lines of tech-enabled services and then software as a service. So we're in that, I'll call it that transition, right, from data and tech-enabled services, which are, for example, the tech-enabled consulting component that comes with the tax business, for example, in Canada is one example of that, and really looking at it as now, as our technology proliferates in the first quarter, which is another thing that you saw in some of these results, was the benefit of Gary's acquisition of Apex, having the tax technologies in the US and the tax technologies in Canada really coalescing, and you're starting to see the increase in the sales efforts. So we're at a pivotal juncture where we are looking ahead and saying, wow, we manage the business according to each of these business lines comprising a tech component, a software as a service component, for example, in title, where we provide a technology service to a third party, and then an actual tech-enabled services component or a consulting component to our revenue, and how we interface with a mortgage servicing client is different when it's a tech-enabled service versus it's a technology platform. And so you're going to see that evolution continue in the company. And as such, you'll see, we saw a slight increase in gross margin from the end of last year to Q1, and we expect that to continue to occur as more and more of it becomes tech-enabled, rather technology versus tech-enabled services.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so which of the business units provides the greatest proportion of the revenue jump?
Yeah, so I'd say the greatest proportion of the revenue jump is really going to be in the valuation technology platform. It's really around our acquisition that we accomplished as well in Q1, which was the acquisition of the ANOW platform. And remember, when we spoke earlier, I don't know if your callers remember or your listeners remember, but we essentially have acquired an end-to-end encrypted, route optimized, and that's the Uberization, and I call it route optimization, AI-enabled platform. It's the only one in North America, and we're having tremendous success with that. So I expect, and that's very, very high margin software as a service. The team that we brought in was around 14 people. It's around $135,000 a month to run their business, and the upside is tremendous because once you bake in this, I'll call it piping into the mortgage lender or servicer or investor, then no matter what kind of valuation you run, it rides that rail at a very high margin. And so really, that I feel like is one of the biggest growth engines between, maybe now and the end of 2021. And in 2022, then, and this could occur sooner, it could occur as early as July, but in the most conservative sense, 2022, you'll see all of this additional technology that's around default business, which has been dormant. And I think we talked about some of the tailwinds that the market just can't really unpack and appreciate, but it's the bankruptcy environment and the bankruptcy technology we deploy to major top 5 bank in the US and a top 4 mortgage servicer. There are some technological products that are very high margin that are fully baked, built, no tech debt, that are sitting there waiting for the moratorium to burn off. And that's some of the additional tech tailwind that you see into 2022. But again, you don't get a sense of it. And that's why when you ask the question, I think, okay, well, near term, you're going to have the valuation technology permeate the business. When we're looking ahead, there are a couple of dominant players in the prop data space that we are looking at partnerships with that hopefully I'll be able to announce something concrete here soon. And we have our eye on several acquisition targets. So I expect that Q2 is going to be another large step forward in the evolution of this platform.
Sure. You mentioned the moratorium on mortgages, and that was serendipitous because my next question was, to what extent will the end of the moratorium on mortgages impact your bottom line, your top line, et cetera?
It's scheduled to end at the end of June. And until I can get the definitive word on that, and it finally comes out, CFPB is looking at it in the U.S., and so we'll see if they determine that that's the case. Most of the mortgage lenders are of the position that based on the current economic climate, the home price appreciation, this is actually a time to release those mortgages so that people have the most options, right? Option to short sale if that's the case because there's hardship, option for first-time home buyers to get in the market because we have low housing stock. So right now it looks like July, but if that's not the case, that's fine. We're going to continue to add to our title business from the purchase money side of the business, rolling out our technology platform to increase that business. We're going to do the same thing. Tax continues to build, and taxes come rain or shine, good economy or bad economy. So the tax technology is going to continue to proliferate. And then the valuation component to create those efficiencies. Lenders are going to continue to look for opportunities to create efficiencies, especially as the rates tighten up somewhat. That's just going to be a tailwind for that platform for us. So I see those three product suites proliferating in either market. What we didn't talk about was our alternative to title insurance. I know we brought that up on the first time that you and I spoke. We are in the process. We've got the Freddie Mac approval. We've done, and our first loan has been in a securitization with that product on it. So that's a big deal to us. We are working through right now Ginnie Mae and educating the rating agencies on this, but it's a huge upside, a tremendous upside for the business. And what we provide at Voxtur is the technology to allow this process to occur efficiently and effectively throughout North America. So that's not baked in any numbers either. That's what we're working on, and again, gone through some of the regulatory processes. And that's why people say, oh, that company's an overnight success, and it takes years in the making, right? So very diligent, getting commentary from major mortgage banks and lenders, going and working through Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie. I've already, basically worked with VA and FHA. We know the product has tremendous upside. It's a single rate structure for most mortgages. It's less expensive. It helps first-time home buyers. It helps veterans. Since it's a singular rate structure, it's a good tool against racial bias. It's a great equalizer. So we feel very good as it gains more focus and as the Biden administration continues to work on their policy that we're well positioned for the future.
Mm-hmm. What does the bankruptcy, the foreclosure universe look like right now in the United States? What volume of homes are in a state of foreclosure?
Well, I think the last number was that there were 5 million homes that were in some form of forbearance litigation effort, and so. But the net effect of that, they believe, is about 500,000 to 1 million homes really at risk. So while there's a 5 million number being bandied about, I think it's going to be 20 to 30% of that. Now, in the normal churn of the portfolio, maybe 1% to 2% might churn through your portfolio just because of life changes, different things happen. People go through all different life situations where this might impact them. So I think that we're going to see, it's not going to be 2008, but it's going to be, probably, right before the moratorium, maybe 2 to 3x. And for what we've built over the time they've been in moratorium, the efficiencies of scale, I think it's going to resonate very well for the Voxtur family of companies. And that goes for the valuation we have some special products that are tech products that are really proliferate when the mortgage foreclosures move. We have technology that manages defaulted loans. We have technology that helps traders take a look at the distressed asset and determine the NPV on the distressed asset by when it will actually liquidate. So we have tools and technologies that are throughout the default continuum that have all been dormant, and all of that is essentially found revenue to the bottom line.
Right. All right, Jim, that's a great update. We'll leave it there for now. Congratulations on the quarter. We'll come back to you soon. Thanks for joining me today.
Always great to talk to you. Take care. Bye-bye.
You bet. Bye for now. Coming back on that. Amazing. Like that's some serious revenue build. If that trajectory continues,
Right.
you got to ask yourself, what is the total addressable market right now, never mind where it's going to be in a little while. That's why I continue to be bullish on the stock.
That could be, if that thing, if that company starts to track that rate of growth and show, continued explosive growth.
Well, double-digit Q-on-Q growth like that over multiple quarters with an improving margin is what we call a legacy stock. You buy it and you never sell it. You leave it to people in your will because it only keeps adding value. Now, I'm not calling the value of this company in the future. I'm just saying that so far, their performance demonstrates in no uncertain terms that they are executing on the business model as proposed by them. It was years ago when I first talked to people around this company, said, here's what we're going to do. Well, then they did what they said they were going to do. That's why I started buying the stock, and now we are essentially engaged as financial communications consultants to the company. However, that being said, I still love the deal, and I think it's going to go higher, personally. What do you think?
You know what?
Do you own any?
No, I don't.
Well,
no, I
yes,
don't.
you do,
No, I
'cause I
don't.
do.
No, but I'm looking for an entry point.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you
I
want to hurry.
That you could be very accurate in your assessment.
Yes.
I'm not here to. I'm just saying this is the kind of stock that could be. It's almost revolutionary in some respects.
I'm not going to say because I just own too much of it. But yeah, so I think we'll keep an eye on that.
Sure.
So the first guest wants to know opinions, memes, or your opinion on meme stocks like AMC trading securities with a lack of fundamentals based on investor sentiment.
That's a tough one. That's a very good question. I was thinking about that. I understand they even warned recently on the fundraising that you can lose your entire investment.
Well, you should make that warning anytime you're raising money, period.
Well, unless you've got a business. I mean, I haven't studied it closely. I'm astounded that the public has basically taken over a certain segment of the market and made it something that you couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, to me, it's a real piss off. I hope they all get flamed out and burned and broke because it's good capital going to no good cause except to just stick their fingers in the eye of the hedge fund managers who they emulate the exact same behavior by doing this stupid shit. Just to show you like, hey, I've got the biggest balls. That's exactly why hedge funds managers are hedge fund managers. It's a crisis of confidence in your own identity and you base your self-worth on your net worth. And that's just pathetic. That's really pathetic. I think it's horrible.
Okay.
Okay, question number 2. How high could oil prices go?
You know, all bets are off when it comes to oil. We saw oil go negative a year ago, March, 14 months ago, because of the futures market. You know, if the trend is now up, it's back to $69. I'm glad you mentioned oil because things don't end well whenever oil starts to rise, we've got problems in the world. And oil is looking like 70s in the cards here very soon.
Okay.
I think oil could go to $100 easily.
Wow.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, all right.
If we get serious inflation,
yeah,
like it could get stupid.
Yeah, well, I think as long as the inventory of capital is juiced up by the central banks continues, I mean, what asset prices are going to go down? Which ones? How can they go down? There's so much capital.
Oil is precious.
Yeah. Speaking of precious, the next question, is this recent gold uptrend here to stay? $3,000 an ounce soon?
Yeah, you know, I've sort of been a gold bug, not a real vociferous one, but I've been a gold bug most of my life. And you know what? That's the wrong approach. I think there are times when gold was going to go up, and there are times when it's going to go down. It's a trading market, but it looks like the primary trend is up. Okay, so I say 3,000. I wouldn't maybe necessarily say soon, but it may take 12, 18 months. If it starts getting over that high, that's when it'll get interesting because then you're in, blue sky.
Okay.
So that's what I would say. I think it's going higher.
Next question. Do you see the psychedelics becoming as big as the cannabis industry? They have been shown to be great treatment for mental health.
You know,
I won't
I think
answer
I'll
that.
let you. I want you to answer that because
There's one answer for that. Compass Pathways. The symbol is, wait one sec, Pathways. Compass Pathways PLC, American Depository Shares, trading at $34.91.
Yeah.
And so obviously, yeah, psychedelics companies can easily get to be as valuable as cannabis companies did in their heyday. The psychedelics market is still on the early side of that trend. So
not as crazy as the pot market was.
yeah. I don't know about Compass Pathways.
Where is it now?
Trading
Where is it
sideways,
now?
$34.70 a share.
Where was it at the peak?
At the peak, it got as high as 58. Oh, here's a higher candle, over $60 a share.
See, what you don't like is that big red drop there. Those several days of candles, and then it snaps back to almost as high.
Yeah.
And then
starts to sell off.
Not the best looking chart in the world, although it's starting to show some level of support here.
Yeah. So Compass Pathways, the company that we like is MindMed. We think that has the potential to perform as well as Compass Pathways based on the fact that they just started trading on NASDAQ as well. Cautionary note, subordinate voting shares. So you're not trusted as a shareholder, and that's why ultimately management could go in whatever direction it wants. I'm fundamentally opposed to subordinate voting share structures, though J.R. Ron I consider a friend. Bruce Linton, the chairman, is a friend. They're not going to be too happy with me harping on that tired, old, dead meme. Anyways, that's our show for today. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you'll come back. Send us in your questions. Tell us what you're buying, what you're selling, and keep your nose clean.
Yes.
That's our parting advice.
Good day. Good day, as they say up in Eastern Ontario. Good day.
Bye-bye.
Good day.
Hasta luego, muchacho.
Good